Hello, it's Tim here from My Life Tonic, and welcome to this episode of What's Your Tonic? And for those that aren't familiar, What's Your Tonic is really focusing about sharing thoughts, ideas in ways that we can support and potentially improve our ongoing well-being. And that could be to be supporting our mental and emotional health, our physical health, could be introducing new habits, as well as potentially giving you ideas in terms of creating new senses of community, all of which can support our own well-being. And in the true essence of My Life Tonic and the life tonics that we like to suggest or propose or even share with you, they don't cost anything, but ultimately they may require a little bit of extra time. It may also require maybe taking a step out of your comfort zone and seeing what happens. And really that's part of today's theme, which is the power of, or the opportunity of, saying yes to new opportunities, however uncomfortable that may initially feel. And as with the My Life Tonics, it's about being intentional with what we are doing, to see how, if we are making slightly or small changes to our routines, noticing the impact that can have on the way we feel, the way we behave, and also our mindset. So why is saying yes to new opportunities, why does that have a potentially positive impact on the way we view things, the way we view the environment around us? I think the most important thing in my side when you're looking at whether we are intentionally saying yes to things is really to make sure that we're making considered decisions. We're not saying necessarily yes to everything, but we're saying yes to things that may push us out of our comfort zone a little bit more, whilst also giving ourselves enough time to do everything else that we need to do. So probably my first and underlying message would be, certainly in terms of changing our mindset, be open to new opportunities. Say yes to those opportunities on the large caveat that we believe we have time, inclination, even the skills to do that. It certainly shouldn't be a source of being overwhelmed and actually adding more stress to our lives and our routines. But actually, why is saying yes, why is being open to new opportunities or new scenarios something that one we should consider, and what are the positive impacts? Now, before recording this podcast, I was reflecting on times when I'd said yes to new scenarios, new situations that were certainly out of my comfort zone. And then I was also then reflecting in terms of the impact that those experiences had. And through this podcast, I'd like to share with you some of those. You may want to take time to reflect on times that you have said yes, what you learned from those situations, how you potentially grew from that, and what it had, what the impact was to your mindset, your confidence, your overall well-being. You could also think about maybe some of the opportunities that you didn't say yes to. Now, it's a good point to reflect on some of those opportunities, but I don't want this to turn into a situation where you feel regretful in terms of what you may not have said yes to, but actually use that to be more aware and receptive to future opportunities when they come up and when they are offered to you. So a number of reasons why we may want to start to say yes. And possibly the most obvious one is that by saying yes to new situations, new scenarios, new opportunities, it's actually pushing us, it's taking us out of our comfort zone. Now, depending on how you want to frame that, you could turn around and go, yeah, that's the growth mindset, that we're challenging ourselves. It's the personal growth that allows us to move forward. And I'd like to think that maybe within the work environment, there have been times when I know that I was challenged to say yes to new opportunities, however it may have been framed. And it may have also felt that I was being voluntold to do certain things, but in hindsight, I'm certainly pleased that I did. And one of those examples would have been in my last corporate job when I was given the responsibility of setting up a team in Budapest, an offshoring in-housing team. Now my knowledge of the Hungarian job market is limited. However, after several visits to our local office to understand the systems, the processes, I have to say it was one of the proudest achievements that I had in that organisation, creating a team of over 12 people that could support the creative production of work on behalf of my company, but also then offering local translations that would benefit the whole business. So having gone from the scenario when I was unfamiliar with the broader setup and organisation of this international company that I was working with, I actually created a fantastic and valuable team within the business. And from a personal experience, worked outside my comfort zone, and then most importantly, met some awesome people, a number of which I am still in touch with. So that was my most recent example from my corporate environment. It doesn't need to be within the work environment. It could be within an organisation that you support or volunteer with, or it could just be within a faith group that you help support and take on more responsibilities. So taking yourself out of the comfort zone by saying yes is certainly something that when you look back, you'll see the benefits and the experiences and the learning points from that time. I find that saying yes to opportunities or things in a slightly different field is a great way to build a new set of skills. And it can also be creating and confirming a greater sense of resilience. Whether it's working in a new geography, it could be working with new people, or it could actually be using new skills in a different context. It basically makes us feel more adaptable to apply the experience, the expertise and the skills we have, but in a different environment. And that in itself will lead to my next point. It can create new relationships that one you wouldn't have had before. It can introduce you to new people, but it also can introduce you to new people across an organisation or within an organisation, or even potentially clients of multiple different levels. Whether that be the graduate that's just joined the business, or it could be someone more senior, or even horizontally within an organisation. And I'm certainly a people person, so actually by finding ways where I can meet new people, understand what they do and how they do it, can certainly generate a level of interest and a sense of being rewarded, certainly on my behalf. And within that organisation I was talking to previously, working in a different project, working with some fantastically knowledgeable people based out in Germany, again was a learning experience for me because of the kind, considered nature that this one individual had when he was sharing his vast depths of knowledge within certain areas of the business. And it has been said that I am a little impatient sometimes, and I certainly reflect on how patient this gentleman was with me in explaining the nuances and the intricacies of this project that I was working on. So it's also given me a different perspective on slowing down, trying to take in the whole picture, understand the ramifications of what I'm trying to do in the context of a larger organisation. Now, that same sense of learning can be applied, whether it's in, again, the large organisation, or whether it's My Life Tonic and me learning to do podcasts and sharing my thoughts and expertise to encourage others to understand how they can look after their own well-being and wellness. By having a positive mindset, it means that in saying yes, you're open to different areas of expertise, different ways of doing things. I've alluded to just only 2 examples in the last couple of minutes in terms of within any organisation, there are different perspectives that have been created for multiple different reasons, and understanding where that perspective has come from, it can broaden my own personal knowledge, my own personal experience. And again, that certainly is something that, having not said yes to various of these different projects, I wouldn't have, one, got to know those people, but also wouldn't have appreciated the various considerations that may be needed to take into account for. And even just from these last two examples, I think you might have picked up on that there's that sense of emotional and mental well-being, how our activities and our ongoing learnings and our testing of ourselves in new environments is great for our emotional and mental health. It gives us more confidence to approach new projects. It gives us more confidence to take on different projects because we've got a track record of doing things that we might not exactly know how they will end up, but ultimately understanding that we can deliver projects for other people, for organizations, for yourself even, and that sense of satisfaction. And so by overcoming these fears, it can also help address, I know I certainly do, potential issues of the imposter syndrome, of self-doubt. Being comfortable with not knowing necessarily how to do things, but figuring it out as we go along. And there's the expression of almost trying new things, flying the plane or building the plane as we're flying, just in terms of saying, right, well, we kind of know the right destination, we know what we want to be doing, not exactly sure how we'll do it. And obviously over time, situations, scenarios change, whether it's the technology that we can use, whether it's the channels that we use. So whether it is creating on-demand videos for people to follow, whether it's yoga, HIIT, breathwork, meditation, through to sharing our expertise and our insights on Instagram, but also now creating these podcasts. So one caveat with the process of saying yes and being receptive to taking on these new projects. It's something that I mentioned early on in the podcast, was saying yes can have all of these really positive impacts, but also making sure that it doesn't become overwhelming and it doesn't become too much. There has to be an element where we have to stop, take stock and say, right, am I using my time, my experience, my expertise in the best ways, in the most effective ways for whatever it is that you're trying to do? So trying not to spin too many plates at one time, juggling too many eggs at one time. So giving yourself permission to say yes, but obviously not yes to everything, because ultimately plates will start to drop. I'm using lots of different metaphors here, but you might start to drop plates, and that can then also have the potentially negative impact on our own mental health, our own confidence, and almost it could be detrimental to the way that we're feeling and also our future ability to take on different projects. And probably my last point when it comes to saying yes is really to think about the opportunities that we're given in our daily lives, and to make sure that we're making the most of those opportunities. And as we say yes to potentially more opportunities, more doors will open, more relationships will be established, we'll be open to other opportunities. So in one sense, it can also be that we are making ourselves open and receptive to different opportunities. And as we open ourselves up, that more opportunities will come our way. And who knows what direction that will necessarily take us. It's being receptive, being open, and also maybe taking a chance, pushing ourselves, taking ourselves out of the comfort zone. So just to recap, what I would say is don't spread yourself too thinly. Maybe start small, build that confidence, and then just see where it takes you. Enjoy the people, the experiences that you have along the way, and notice after each of those projects, maybe what are those learning experiences? What could you have done differently? What will you do differently in the future? So without trying to get too specific into the whole business talk and the chats and using those kind of MBA terms, is be receptive, say yes to opportunities. Be aware when you are doing those opportunities, what you are learning, who you are learning from and who you are meeting, but also taking that time of reflection at the end to say, what could I have done differently? How would have I handled certain situations differently? What could I have done differently to have a different or a better outcome? And once you've done that, both during and then after, whatever you've been receptive to, whatever you've said yes to, will help equip us to say yes to other projects and to refine those skills, to refine those relationship building scenarios that can make for either a more effective or a better or the desired outcome that you are looking for. So in conclusion, the power of saying yes have many positive impacts as long as you can maintain and control and not feel overwhelmed by them. Hopefully, you'll be able to take this short podcast and use it as a reference point. Make it that you're more receptive to saying yes to future opportunities, being aware of where or it could lead you to. As with all of the life tonics that I like to share on What's Your Tonic, even just this small tip of being receptive, being open to saying yes can help your own mental, emotional well-being. It can maybe generate a new connection, a new sense of community, as well as establishing new habits. If you're interested in learning about ways to help maintain our own well-being and also improve it over time, you also have the option of taking the My Life Tonic Wellbeing Scorecard. It's completely free. It takes about 3 minutes. There's 22 questions. And I like to think it will help provide insights into the different building blocks that can help maintain, establish and improve our well-being. You can take it multiple times now and into the future. And it may be that your scores change, they increase over time, but you'll also be able to see where you may not be fulfilling or maintaining that sense of well-being as effectively as you'd like. Similarly, there'll be tips and suggestions on how you can address those potential lower scores or potential shortcomings. Look, thanks so much for listening to this episode of What's Your Tonic, the power of saying yes to opportunities. I hope you found it helpful. Hopefully you'll be able to take it forward next time an opportunity arises, rather than potentially saying no, that it may even make you slightly more receptive to saying yes. And as a challenge to you over the next week, just be aware of those opportunities. Don't have to say yes to all of them, but it may be that following this podcast, this reframing the mindset of opportunities that come up, give it a go, see where it takes you. Best of luck, and I hope you found this short My Life Tonic, What's Your Tonic podcast helpful. Thanks for listening.